Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
As the Virtual Grip Network gears up for another action-packed week of racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's race winners. Daryl Weidiger with Yesteryear Racing's Tour Modified Series. Bill Benedict with the Red Light Racing's SK Modified Series. Dwayne MacArthur with the OBRL's Cup Series. And Zach Saunders with the Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series. Now we'll take a quick break before turning things over to John Hine, who's standing by with this week's special guest, Tim Porter from VGN.
Welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Hine. I am here this week with Tim Porter of the BRL and VGN Media. Tim's first race with the BRL was back in October 2024, so definitely a newbie. He started in the Street Stocks at Slinger. Since then, he's had 33 starts, 2 top 5s, 15 top 10s. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, John. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, we'll get to the racing side of this first, but, you know, you do some things here for VGN. So let's touch base on that real quick. Tell everybody what you do here at VGN.
Yeah, so when VGN took on the Red Light Racing League's Modified Series broadcasts on Thursday, I was kind of looking for a way that I might contribute to VGN or BRL in some way. And so I reached out to Lowell and I said, hey, I can write articles. I've always kind of liked writing. And he said, well, we've got this new series started, and would you be willing to maybe write up a summary of them? So I write up those summaries every week, and Lowell posts them out there for folks to see. So I get a kick out of it.
Well, that's cool. So when you watch your races live, or do you go back and watch the broadcast to kind of get what's going on? Or
usually I can't watch them live. Usually I watch them on Friday and try to write them up if I can Friday, or get to them on the Saturday. But when I can, I'll try to catch them live if I can.
So, what's the biggest challenge then to writing the article after kind of rewatching the broadcast or whatever? I mean, because I've written, and I think everybody's kind of written, whether they were in school or not. And I was one of those where the teacher always was like, "Why don't you cut out a little bit here?" Because prone to rambling that might surprise
Yeah.
people. But so, what's the biggest challenge about writing those?
So what I do is I pull the race up, watch the race, and I've actually got a spreadsheet that I go by, not lap by lap, but when something interesting happens, I'll capture the laps, and so I'll and write a little note of who's involved, what happened, and so I watch it through that way, and then I go to write the article up, and so I refer back to my little notes that I made, and then I watch the race, tend to watch parts of it again, and so it's trying to pull it all together. And last season, it was trying to find something other than write about Eric Stout the whole time. That dude dominated everything. So I try to just find a way to mention as many people as I can, if I can, and just try to pull out the highlights. So.
Yeah, and that's a series that, how do I want to put this, has a lot of action that happens in it. That's probably the best way I can put it, which for all those competitors in red light makes it entertaining to watch, but I'm sure as a competitor you're probably
Yeah.
But so how do you handle and kind of weed through that stuff? Because I mean, you don't want to put too much of that, but so what is your rule of thumb for that stuff?
Yeah, when I started off, so when I joined BRL, I would write up summaries of our street stock series that we have, and when I started off writing those, I did write a kind of a paragraph on each caution that happened, and it's just like, man, this gets to be too much. It's too long, and so I just try to focus on if there's like a really consequential accident or yellow that comes out. I try to give the details on that, but I do try to keep it fairly short. So plus I don't want to I try to avoid assigning who I think's to blame. I'll just say things like these two cars got together, and I try not to say somebody spun somebody else out. So I'd rather try to focus on the more positive things that happened through the race. So I try to give stats on who led, how many laps, who led the most laps, who picked up the most positions. I try to focus more on maybe the more positive things, and kind of trim out I'll note how many cautions happen, but if it's not overly consequential, I'm like, we'll just let that go.
Well, speaking of the street stocks, you're a competitor on the track too, and I think most of your starts in BRL have come in the street stock division. So you're not a full-time competitor. You do a lot of the street stocks. What about those cars draw you to that car, or what about the heuristics draw you to that car?
Yeah, I like the street stocks just because they're like old school. Like what we live close to Wake County Speedway, like what the guys race at Wake County Speedway here, and it just seems like a kind of throwback. I like that they are not glued to the surface, right? So there's certainly some skill, which I don't have a lot of, but to go fast in those cars, you've got to manage the throttle and the brake and take care of your tires, and I just like that. I like the mini stocks. I tend to like the more kind of the lower class cars, I think they're funner to drive to me than these things that are maybe stuck to the ground or super powerful, and I just like the managing of those a little better.
Well, that's definitely a discipline that's probably underrated. I mean, I go in the other direction, but and the funny thing is, I get in those cars and I can't make them go fast. But I have no problem in an SK or a wing sprint car or something like that. And it's in a weird way, I'm envious that guys that can get in those cars and make them work.
Yeah.
I can't do it. At least I can't do it very well.
I can't do it very well either, but I like trying.
Well, You talk about those cars sliding all over and everything else. Is there a track that, when you see it pop on the schedule, it's like, oh, yep, it's on. This is where
Yeah.
I can't wait to get there.
I would say in the for the street stocks, probably Southern National Speedway. I do like, while I like them sliding around a little bit, I do appreciate some banking as well, and I like seeing that one pop up on our schedule. I don't think I've ever. One of my favorite tracks is Concord, the old Concord Speedway, and I don't think I've ever raced this street stock there, but that'd probably be a fun track to take them to.
If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I think BRL does go there, albeit it's like once a year
Yeah,
that they go in there. So I do think you'll get your shot to run in
that'd be
there at
fun.
some point. Um, yeah, somebody else I don't know if it was the last show or the show before that. Somebody else really liked Concord, and I think my response was, "What's wrong with you?" Um, but it's a unique track
It is.
because you've got elevation changes, you've
Yeah,
got 3 turns
yeah,
debatable, 4 turns debatable, um, and they're all different. They
they all.
all have a unique challenge. So tell me why you like that track so much. What about
Yeah.
it do you like?
Um, I think so. Yeah, the 3 turns are something else. So I like to feel like, especially that middle turn, the second. I think of it as the second turn of the I guess triangle track. And do you take that flat out? Do you let off a little bit, and you can kind of gain a lot of speed? And if you take that flat out and you're carrying a lot of speed, and you're getting into turn 3, which is kind of flat and super tight, now you got to get on the brakes, and it's just I feel like it's a real driver's track. Again, I'm
You
not
forgot and downhill.
and downhill. That's
That's an important part of that corner.
It is. It is. So it's just a lot of things working together, and can you keep it together? And I'm not a super fast driver, but I just get a real kick out of those challenges. So I think it's neat.
Yeah, that is, guys that like that track. I mean, I suppose those are drivers, man, because yeah, those that you are constantly driving. You're not
Well,
really, you don't really have a. I mean, you go down the front stretch there, you got a momentary break, maybe a
yeah,
second, 2 second stops,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then you're back. The rest of that lap, you're busy.
yeah. You are.
So that's definitely a unique track there, and yeah, I don't find too many guys that like it, but the ones that I do, believe it or not, even though I give you guys a little bit of crap about it, there's a part of me that's envious because yeah, that's above my pay grade. That's how I look at that track. Be good there, you gotta go above my pay grade. Um, you talk about the cars that we tend to broadcast and everything else are the higher, a little bit higher power, one's a momentum, one, but both are fairly stuck to the track. You do
Yeah,
got 2 top 5s in those cars, so really good runs. Do you remember where those top 5s came at?
I don't.
One was Southern National, one was Nashville.
Okay.
So you mentioned
With some
Southern
bacon.
National as one of the tracks you like. So,
Yeah,
and both of those tracks, the things that they have in common is they are fast
yeah,
tracks. Really, really fast tracks, and a lot of it has to do with that banking. So you talked a little bit about the flat, over in turn 3 there at Concord. So do you like the banked tracks, or do you kind of like the more flat ones where a little more throttle control, a lot more braking?
yeah,
Your feet are a lot busier on the flat tracks than they are the big
yeah.
tracks. So
I
do you have a preference?
appreciate. Yeah, I definitely appreciate something with some banking. Yeah, like Nashville or a Southern National. That's great. Um, and I do like the other cars too. I like the late model. I'll stop and the SK. Actually, the SKs are new to me. When I joined BRL last year, I hadn't really driven those. I'm really still learning about those cars, but I appreciate some banking just to help me kind of get through a corner. Yeah, for sure. And that's very much uh, I've been in sim racing since the old Papyrus NASCAR, the first NASCAR game. I've been into it, and my favorite track all along there was Bristol, all through the various NASCAR series and or games that they had, or sims that they had, and then in iRacing Bristol. So Bristol was my main track, and so yeah,
which has a lot of banking.
it sure does. I appreciate
A
that.
lot of banking.
It feels a little more
Well,
familiar to me.
you talked about when you joined into BRL and the SK being really new to you. So what was your biggest challenge of trying to get a hold of that car? Because that car is kind of a little bit of a beast, because you talk about being stuck to the track and you've got to carry a lot of momentum to go
Yeah,
through the corners in those cars.
yeah, and probably the biggest challenge, and I'm still working on this, is kind of, if I have a driving style, is I try to kind of take it easy on the car until maybe the last 20 laps or so, and then try to get after it as much as I can get after it. And I'm learning, and actually listening to the VGN broadcast has helped me with JR kind of saying those SKs, they don't tend to wear the tires out. It's more the temp that you have, the
Yep.
temperature in them that you have to worry about. And that is a new concept to me. And I wonder if my style of tending not to push really hard and more worry about tire wear maybe is the thing I've got to tweak a little bit for that car. So, and just seeing over the air cleaner, of course, is another thing.
Yeah. Are you in VR? Are you triples?
VR.
What are you in? VR.
Yeah,
Okay.
VR.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
okay, I can relate to the air cleaner thing for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, the getting the heat in them, over driving those cars, then all of a sudden your push becomes worse and worse as you pack heat
Yeah.
in that right front tire, and then it feels like forever to get it where it actually cools off and turns again.
Yeah.
What has been the hardest track in those cars for you to get a hold of?
Oh, wow. I would think Hickory is the one that comes to mind. It's or maybe Langley. Hickory's the one that comes to mind, especially turns 3 and 4. I just can't get through those corners for some reason, and I feel like I try different things, and it's just ugh.
Well, that's for those that don't know. Hickory is a bull ring. It's one of the smaller tracks
Yeah,
that you'll go to, and yeah, where you're talking about 3 and 4, whether it invites you to get back on the throttle earlier than probably what you should.
yeah,
And then it either pushes, or if you get back too quick, it snaps around. So it's kind of like a Goldilocks corner, too much, too low. I mean, and it create both. If you go too quickly into the throttle, creates a problem. If you're too slow, creates a problem for you, because then so yeah, you've got to
yeah.
almost be perfect every lap there.
That's a toughie.
Um,
And while you were saying that, I got to thinking also. I mean, and it doesn't matter what car we're in, but Stafford, ay ay ay, that is not. You talk about a
that's a flat.
flat track. Oh boy, yep.
And it's a flat track for whatever reason, has a lot of speed to it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you really have to carry a lot of speed through the center of those corners with no banking to help you turn.
yeah.
And yeah, that I can see that. That's definitely a tough one.
That's
Well, the other one that we run in BRL is the late model stock. So were you familiar with those when you started?
I am, and I did a lot of those races when I got finally was when I was invited to join. I did those. I did those races, and I do like driving those cars. I kind of um, I this season I decided to maybe take a break and just kind of. I get so tense during these races. And after doing the street stocks and the SKs, I'm kind of like, ugh, man, I'm kind of worn out, frankly.
You should come run dirt with us.
You don't want to see me on dirt.
Oh, we like to see everybody on dirt.
Yeah,
Those cars, you're right though, because those cars, you've got a lot going on, because
yeah,
you don't have to worry. You do have to worry about getting the tires wore out. You don't have to worry about getting the heat in them. It's wearing them out, and you definitely you have to pace yourself in those.
yeah,
Um, and that's tough. I know my biggest challenge when I'm in them is I see everybody around me going faster, and it's like, okay, am I this slow or are they burning their tires up? I
Right.
never know the answer to that question. So for you, what is your biggest challenge on those cars?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the exact same thing. I try to save my tires, and I feel like sometimes I'm holding guys up. So, especially with the race of 100 laps, I would basically just kind of let some folks go, and if I can just get settled in, and then I am wondering, well, if should I have been keeping up with them? Am I going to run out of laps to catch back up? And so just managing the tires on those. Um, for sure, and they're fast, and they're fast cars, and so things happen uh, real quick. Yeah.
Especially at a place like Hickory. That's a track. If you see it, you're probably going to be in it. So,
That's right. Yeah.
um, so but what car? You talk about liking the street stocks and the street and all that. What car do you like to drive the most? That's in the service.
Yeah. When they came out with the mini stocks, um, they're just a blast to drive. They're like what I thought the Legends cars should kind of be like, and um, uh, the tough part with those is getting in on just regular races. You got there's going to be a bunch of wrecks because people just running into each other. But I just find those a blast to drive, and I do like the SKs. I like learning those. I like the streets. I like a bunch of them. I'm not a big fan of the latest model of the Cup Series cars, but I'd say the mini stocks are like the ones I have just a blast in, just the most fun in. Yeah.
Yeah, those cars. Yeah, you talk about the right, and when you've got a lower power card like that, almost every track is almost too big for the car.
Yeah.
Even the 3/8 mile and things like that. It becomes almost like plate racing, in my opinion, where everybody's right here. And yeah, I've got to get in one of those cars. I think I've taken like 5 laps, and it was on dirt in those cars. So, and I do hear a lot of good things about those cars. How much fun they are to drive.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you running the 3 different series means you almost have to do 3 different race strategies because
Mm,
the street stock, it's a shorter race. So
hmm
it's kind of like green flag goes, it's time to go. Um, SK, okay, you don't have to worry about tire wear, so you can go a little bit, drive it a little more aggressively, but you got to be careful of the right front. The late model, you got to be careful from the get-go. Like I said, you have to
hmm
pace yourself. So, what is your strategy? Does it change from race to race? I mean, how do you handle your strategy and how you race?
Yeah. Um, the driver that I was always the biggest fan of was Mark Martin. I started off a Bill Elliott fan, and then migrated over to Mark Martin when Mark came on the scene, and I just always appreciated the way that Mark would race. That he would take care of his stuff. If a guy catches him from 2 seconds back, and there's 200 laps to go, I'm not holding this guy behind me for 200 laps. Can we just find a way to sort it out, and maybe I'll get him back later. And I try to mirror that. I try to I don't want to mess anybody's races up. Not a big fan of, I think Soup calls it being the cork in the bottle. I don't want to be the cork in the bottle. I'd rather just, if I can avoid being freight train. Now, if I'm going to get freight train, I'm less likely to just be like, okay, why don't you guys just go if I can find a spot. But if I can just maybe let a couple of guys go and just get some comfort, I am still, especially in the SKs, I am still learning those cars. So maybe I can get behind a faster guy, and we got some fast guys in BRL, and I can learn something maybe. And um, so. And then with about 20 laps to go, if I can pick up a spot or two, or maybe I've saved up a little something, or some guys have used up their stuff, I'll do that. And I'm probably not going to win a lot of races with that philosophy, but maybe I'll squeak one out here or there. Might be fun if I can get in the top 5 regularly, and I don't have to win them all. I'm out there for fun, and especially on the SK side to really learn those cars. So that's kind of my philosophy: is just take care of the stuff. Try not to be in the way if I am in the way early in the race, and learn something.
Yeah, learning is always good. In the lessons, sometimes the ones that always, that frustrate me is I get behind somebody that's trying to learn, and then I go try. JR is a great example. I don't know how many times in those SKs I've been behind JR going, okay, I'll figure out what he's doing. I'm going to replicate it, and I can go JR speed. And you get behind him, it's like, yeah, whatever, man. You just go, yeah, it isn't happening. So those are always fun lessons to learn on the track, when the ones that you just realize, okay, I'm just not as good as he is. Nothing to do with driving the bill. It's just I'm just not as good as he is.
Just
So
not as good.
those are the ones I learned the most, probably.
It's humbling. That's what I tell. I cut you off there, John, but there are people in this world who aren't into racing, and so if they're asking, how can you sit down and watch cars do 400 laps around a track forever? And I'm like, you just don't understand, because I think of it, and I also think people are driving their cars like there was a fellow at work one time who said, man, if I was out on that track, I would just be swerving and just be blocked, nobody get past me. And I'm like, Terry, it just doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. And just because you can drive your car down the interstate, I promise you that doesn't mean you can hop in one of these cars and do what those guys do. That's like getting in your yard and throwing the football around with your kid and thinking that you could play your quarterback in the NFL. It's just not that way. And so I tell folks, it can be a humbling thing to be behind a guy and he's just a tenth faster than you, and he just creeps away, and there is nothing you can do about it. You're at your limit, and he's got the same stuff you do, and he's just pulling away. It's humbling.
Yeah, or vice versa. You're that 10th faster, and the guy in front of you, and only being a 10th faster, where you go on the outside, he's got the shorter. You can't go on the outside to pass him. You've got to figure a way around, and that is something. You hit a great point. I don't think people realize that it's almost a game of chess on the racetrack more times than you'll ever think. I mean, everybody thinks they're out there just, being simple. Like you said, I could just weave and do all this stuff. Nobody be able to pass me. Well, you do that until you end up stuffed in the fence somewhere. And, that I can assure you doesn't feel good when you hit a concrete wall at 70, 80 mile an hour. It hurts. But yeah, it is amazing. And that is just a great point, though, because whether you're ahead and you're trying to keep the guy behind you, you're behind trying to get around the guy. When you're talking, and BRL, is incredible, because there's only usually a tenth and a half between first and last. So you put that in perspective, just never mind trying to get around a guy that you're a tenth or quicker. But when you have a whole field like that, that means you got 10, 12 guys in front of you that are, within that range. And that is very, very difficult to do. And that's what makes it fun. And when you get that understanding of it, you tend to enjoy it. But I mean, it's like golf. I mean, my idea of golf is when I go out and I get, we go get a bunch of beer, put on the back of the golf cart. By the time we get about the 5th hole, if I hit the ball and I find it, I win the hole. But I can't watch it on TV because I don't understand the nuances of it.
Yeah.
And I would almost say that, if you don't know, you're not hitting the ball with a crooked stick. There's wind and all these, how much spin you put on it. I don't understand any of that stuff. And I'm sure if I did, oh my gosh, I'd probably love golf to watch it on TV. So yeah, I think that's just what people tend to do. If they don't get it, they're like, yeah, that looks stupid to me. Well, do you ever take the time to maybe study it and, see what's really going on there? But, you talked about Bill Elliott and Mark Martin. So you're
Mhm.
talking a couple of guys that were really dominant from, about the mid 80s all the way
Mhm.
through about 2000. So as for a guy like me, that's what I, grew up. So, but for some of these whippersnappers that are on the track with us, that seems like,
Oh,
centuries ago.
yeah.
So when did you get hooked into racing? How did that happen? How did you, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. So I have always been a car guy, especially Ford and especially Mustangs guy. So even when I was a little kid, I loved especially Mustangs. When we'd see a Mustang on the road, I was hooked. And nobody in my family is into racing really. So back when I was 14, my family got cable TV, and I was scrolling through the channels, and I came across NASCAR, and I liked that they look like street cars. Obviously, I learned that they are not street cars, but they at least look like, you could see a Thunderbird or Monte Carlo, and you'd know what it was. And so I got hooked on that, and of course, it helped that was the season Bill Elliott I think he won 10 races or so. So a good chance I was watching him win, and um, so that got me hooked. Also on the drag racing side, at the same time, I kind of got into the what do they call them? Are the pro stocks that look like cars on the street?
Oh
But
yeah, like Bob Glidden and
yeah,
some of those
yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I kind of got into that. I fell out of the drag racing, but got big time into NASCAR, and so um, that's what got me hooked.
Yeah, that NHRA stuff, especially once you get up like the Top Fuel and the Funny Car, what those
Mhm.
guys do is just nuts.
It's
Um,
nuts.
yeah, absolutely
And
nuts.
I
I'd
guess
love to do a
Tony's
ride
lighting
along.
them up over there, right? Tony
Yeah,
Stewart's.
he's got Tony,
Yeah.
you know, add to that legacy because he's leading the Top Fuel points. I think he's got a couple of wins already. So yeah, they're that guy. I mean, yeah. uh, you talk about greatest drivers ever, and I know that he never went and tried to, do Formula One and got into sports
Yeah.
car like AJ and some of those other guys did back in the day. But man, if Tony's got to go down as one of the best ever.
It's crazy.
So, you talked about Mark Martin and Bill, again. So, was there anybody else that you kind of gravitated to, you liked, you kind of rooted for?
So I liked Jeff Burton. He was kind
Okay.
of in the
Familiar?
same kind of thing, and
Mhm.
yeah, same era.
How about
Really, it was
today?
yeah,
Like tonight,
today.
I know we do, but there's a NASCAR race on TV tonight.
Yeah.
So who do you kind of like? All right, come on.
I don't know that I have a person that I um, root for so much anymore. Like with uh, when Mark was around, and I know that that's been 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but I was so rooting for him. It was crazy. But these days, I like to see Kyle Larson, just another person that's obviously probably already in the record books for
Phenomenal.
one of the
Yeah,
greatest
phenomenal
drivers
talent.
ever.
Yes.
And that's cool. I do tend to listen to in-car cameras or in-car radio, and
By
I
the
wouldn't
way,
say,
if you've
yeah,
got Max TV, you can do that and pick any driver in the field and
okay,
watch in car and their audio at the same time. So
that's cool.
in the Max, check it out. That's how I watch the races now. I'll climb in different people's cars and watch. So pick
That's
that up.
that's cool.
It is
Yeah, it is. Uh, so when I'm doing that, I tend to listen to, and I wouldn't say I'm a Bubba Wallace fan necessarily,
I like
but
Bubba.
yeah, I like Bubba. I think he gets more grief than he should, but they're very entertaining on the radio during the race, so that's why I listen to them.
Yeah, I think like Ryan Blaney, he and Chase Elliott are all really good friends. And man, I couldn't
Yeah,
imagine hanging out with Ryan and Bubba. I mean, you want to talk about a good time, no matter what it. I mean, you could sit and watch paint dry, and I got a feeling those guys would make it fun.
yeah.
Um, so, um, So it's kind of cool. So you kind of like the same kind of guys, the guys that kind of because the guys you kind of named even for today have a little bit of that old school
Yeah.
mentality. I think there are probably few of the very few of the guys left that have that. Some of the stuff I see on a track now, it's like it's cringeworthy,
It is
but
cringe.
it's acceptable.
It is.
Back in my day, it's weird because I see and I watch races, and I know everybody has their own opinion about NASCAR. People don't like all the changes they made. The chase and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
What I don't understand now is, when you rough a guy up on a track, back in the day, you either paid for it in one of two ways. Either you got your butt busted on the track, or you
Right.
got your butt busted in the
Well,
pits.
well,
Today, when that stuff goes on, if you do either one, you're in a whole world of trouble.
you are.
And now when people, I mean, the only thing you're going to get your butt busted on now is social media. All these guys get to social media, and it's like, well, gee, you wonder why they keep doing the things over and over and
Yeah.
over again. So you're going to get a mean tweet. I'm more of a go out there and show them, hey, don't do that again.
Yeah.
And I
And
won't do it to you. But which has gotten me in trouble a few times here, even in iRacing in a more than one league. But
yeah.
um,
And the
that's
other thing that's missing these days, I think, is there's not a Earnhardt Senior, a
yeah,
Tony Stewart. I don't know the Mark ever did that, but a Rusty Wallace, somebody who's going to kind of grab you by your earlobe
yeah.
and pull you over and say, "Listen, man, you're fast,
Yep,
but
and
you
before those
can't do
guys,
stuff
there
like that."
it was David Pearson.
Yeah,
Real quick you would learn. Okay, not you're right. There is nobody now that will pull someone aside and have not even so much pull them aside, but have the credibility.
yeah,
Because those guys, when Tony came over, you knew you got a champion, and Senior, you had one of the greatest ever. He come over and talk to you. You might ought to want to listen.
yeah,
So yeah, you don't see, I'm thinking the people, I mean, Denny Hamlin's probably the closest that racing has to that now. I know a lot of guys, he's one of those guys that either you really like him or you really
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah.
But as far as drivers, I think in the Cup Series today, Denny's probably the one that's, even though he doesn't have that championship, but Denny's been around the block, I think, more than most of
Mhm.
those guys. So, um, you know, one of the things cool about you that I think you've gotten to do is, we're talking about Petty and all those guys. You got to do a Richard Petty ride along. What was that like?
Yeah. So my family, when I graduated from NC State, my family got me the Richard Petty driving experience for graduating in celebration of that. And they actually got me two parts. The first was I got to drive one of the cars, and that was really cool. That was really cool. And but what was super cool, so I got to drive, I think, 3 laps in the actual car. It was me and somebody else, and then a lead car. So you just had to, they helped you keep pace. But it wasn't like you were out there by yourself. What was awesome, super awesome, was to do, I think I flipped it. I think it was 8 laps to drive, and then 3 laps you rode with a professional driver. And when I said that I tell people, I promise you, you can't do what those guys are doing on the track. Do that, and you'll find out. I mean, I respected that I couldn't do those things, but it was me, uh, and there were 3 of us at a time. So it was me riding with somebody. My brother-in-law at the time was riding with another driver, and there was somebody else. And so three cars. I'm sitting on pit road and I'm talking to the guy. Of course, I'm thinking my NASCAR 4, Papyrus NASCAR 4, right? So I'm like, what kind of lap times you turn here? I think I turned about 30 lap, about 30-second lap or so. And trying to talk it up like I knew what was going on. And I said, have you ever, I asked the guy, have you ever had anybody freak out in here? And he said, yeah. And if you freak out, don't grab my arms.
Oh no. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
now they've got a steering wheel for you to hold on.
Okay.
Back a while back, they didn't have that.
No, they had a little
And
handle on the seat, a little
yeah,
iron handle that you could hold on to, and so we took off, and I just remember coming off a pit road there, and just the acceleration, and then you hit that banking, and we get into the turn, and he's going down the backstretch. And me and my brother-in-law both said the same thing. Is like, we were thinking, oh, they're showing off. They're going to kill. They're showing off. They're just want to scare us because they just go down the backstretch and they don't lift.
Mm-hmm.
They're not lifting, and the turn is coming, and they've not lifted yet. What are we doing? And the wall's like right here, and then you get in that turn, and those 3 G's or so kind of push you down in the seat. You're like, oh, and I'm like holding on to my little
they push you down and push you over.
Yeah, push like this, and come out of the turn, and of course they're passing each other. And I'm like looking at the cars come around us, and I'm looking at the tires, which I always thought of racing tires as being super wide, and they just look like they're bicycle tires. I'm like, these tires can't hold these cars on the track. What is going on? And we did our 3 laps and got in, and my hands I was just shaking. I was like, holy cow! It only made me want to be a race car driver even more. But I was just so pumped. And a guy comes over, drops the window net, and I'm trying to stick my feet out. He's like, no, head first. And I get out, and I look at my brother-in-law, and we're both just like, holy.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, I don't know that it's just showing off. I mean, I've given a couple of rides in 2-seaters for dirt late models, and the couple things that I always like to do for folks was tap the outside wall, going down the backstretch, just kind of boom, 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 let them know it's there, and then, you want to make sure you get the feel of it. And yeah, those are things that it's not that they want to show off. They definitely want you uncomfortable because I always wanted to make the person scream. That's how I knew if I gave them their money's worth. So, but
yeah, I think they want you to get the whole experience, and because that is what they do. I mean, that is how it works.
Then when you got to go turn around and drive after doing that, how much of what you just felt riding along did you try to replicate?
So I wish I would have gone in that order. And actually, when I was talking to the guy before we went, he said, now, have you driven yet? And I did drive. So I drove first and then rode along, and I should have done the flip. Yeah, I should have done the flip of that. Because
I don't know about that, because you probably had that was pretty cool. I think I did really well. And then you get out with someone and you're like,
oh, this is the real. This is how. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, now that you say that, I think that would actually be the better way to do it.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a good way to bust your butt. Well, hey, they didn't lift, so guess what I'm going to do? Richard's going to have to buy some new cars, I think, if they did it that other way around, I would think. But
it was something,
That's really cool. Well, but you've gone on to drive, though. You've done some autocross too, correct?
Just a little bit, yeah. Another thing I did after I graduated college was I got a new car. Well, it was new to me. I bought a used. I graduated in '97, so I got a year-old '96 SVT Mustang Cobra, and
wow.
I did a couple of autocross events, where you race around the cones locally, and that was fun. I didn't do enough of that to get any good at it or anything, but that was a good time.
What is when you've raced and done that? What is your what's the biggest thing you think you've learned? Your biggest, not learned, but what was your biggest misconception, should I say, of what you thought it was going to be like? To this is what it's really like.
Yeah, I think for that, for the little bit that I did of that, I think the thing that I learned the most was I'm not a road racer, but for compound corners, where you're doing you got a series of corners that you sacrifice. Maybe the first couple of corners to set yourself up for the last corner on the straight. I would say that was the biggest thing. You don't think about necessarily how do I get through each of these corners the fastest, but it's how do I get out of all of these corners with the most speed to set me up on the straight.
Funny thing is, that's the rule of thumb too on what should be your rule of thumb on the oval side of things too.
Yeah,
Set those straightaways up. So
yeah, yeah.
that's really cool. With you been able to do that, have you been able to been on the track with, I don't want to say professionals, but when you do those autocross, usually there's one or two guys that have had a lot of experience.
Yeah,
Um, when you get around those guys, I mean, what's that like on the track
yeah.
for you?
That was we would. It was really cool when I was doing that because most of the guys, especially the guys that were pretty good, they were willing to just kind of, hey, why don't you hop in my car with me and we'll go around the track together and see if you can get some pointers from that. So I did that a couple of times. One guy, I think, is at Formula Ford. He brought a Formula Ford car out. That was pretty cool to see. But yeah, pretty good community with that stuff. I didn't do a ton of it, but it was pretty neat. Yeah.
Well, one of the other things too, I mean, you got to do that, which is really cool. And something else that you do that when I've read kind of through everything that you do, that I thought was really cool, and is you play guitar. You do some things musically, and um, the song that you sent me, do you have that copyrighted?
Um,
Like if we
no,
play it,
yeah,
if we play it, are the YouTube police gonna come and yell at us?
no, I don't think so. No, they
Okay,
should.
so
Yeah.
hopefully through the magic of what Ryan does, and Ryan can do anything, so I'm hoping that we can pipe this through for just a minute. And now when we come back, what a cool song. So, are you a studio musician? Do you get up on stage? I mean, what do you do? Is it just, hey, whenever I jam, I jam?
Yeah.
I mean, what is it for you?
So I would say I'm a studio musician in a home studio, and actually that's where I'm at now. So
Yeah, see all the guitars behind you.
Yeah, I got my amps are over. I got some amps over here, and my monitors are here, and I've got some sound proofing up on the walls. So it's mostly recording. I do have I have published some stuff, self-published some things. It's not like anybody's asked me to publish some songs on like Spotify and Apple Music, and I mostly put stuff out there so in case my family wants to listen to it. I'm not looking to be a professional musician, but it's a neat way to kind of share that music. That song, if you guys can play it, is on. There's a website called Compose, KOMPOZ, and it's a place that musicians can come to. So like I play guitar, a little bit of bass, and that song started off as I came up with that with the rhythm guitar part. I posted it on Compose, and I invited drummers and bass players and singers. It's hard to get singers, but
Cool.
singers to sing on it. So I hadn't written any lyrics, and so I posted that track out there, and the singer, and I don't even know his name. He wrote lyrics to it and sang it, did some 3-part harmonies on it, and posted it back, and then mixed it up. And so yeah, I play. I tend to come up just with like original music. I got on my YouTube channel. I've put some stuff up there as well.
So, being a guitar player, what's the best guitar riff ever written?
Oh.
What's the one that you just like to just on occasion belt it out? What's the best?
I would say Panama by Van Halen. That is a blast.
Nice.
That is a blast to play. Yeah.
So now we got to tell Lowell to get with you and get you write a VGN theme jingle.
There you go.
That'd be awesome. That is so cool. That and like all the guitars behind you. That is that is way, way cool. As someone who has no talent is envious of that stuff. So, well, also then, what do you do for work in that?
Yeah, I work at Underwriters Laboratories, UL Standards and Engagement, and I don't know. People I was looking for something that might have.
Say in English, what is that?
Yeah. So UL is, if you see a electronic product or something, usually electronic products, and you turn them around and it's got a mark on it. It's got a U and an L and a circle. That's the safety testing organization. And I don't work on our testing part of the enterprise. I work in the standards part of the enterprise, which is the group that works with various experts to develop the standards that products are tested to. And so I work in that part of.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
I've been there for 27 years.
Well, congratulations.
Well,
That's very
thank you.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
another thing you got going 20 plus years, you've been married for 20, was it 24?
I have been. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
Tell me a little bit about your family then.
Yeah, my wonderful wife, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
She's
Hopefully
a
she
godsend.
watches.
I hope so. She's a godsend. She lets me do my various hobbies and have a good time with her. And then my daughter is graduating high school. Margaret Ann is just a couple of weeks away from graduating high school. She's already been accepted to East Carolina University.
Wow.
She's planning to
Congrats.
pursue her nursing degree. Yeah. So.
Oh, very, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's going to make a difference.
She is.
That's really, really cool. You got to have a special heart and a special drive to serve others like that. That's really, really a neat thing and very cool. Well, Tim, I have really have gotten to know you here, and I hope everybody else that has watched. So I do thank you for giving me your time today. We got a couple of things left here, and one is a green-white checker that we kind of like to do. So you're kind of ready to do kind of a rapid fire real quick?
Sure.
All right. Since it's, this is being shown on the day, Memorial week and weekend and all that, we all know that the triple that happens Sunday. So I give you a plane ticket and a ticket. Do you go to Indy? Do you go to Monaco? Or do you go to 600?
Oh, man. I don't know how you don't go to Monaco, right? If somebody else is paying for it, that'd be a tough one to turn up.
How about which one do you watch on TV? You can only watch one.
Yeah. The 600. Yeah.
Okay. Mount Rushmore has 4 presidents on it. Who's on the Mount Rushmore for you for drivers?
Oh, wow. Mark Martin for sure. Bill Elliott, I'll put him up there. Back in the day, I know this is rapid fire, but back in the day, I wouldn't say I was a Dale Earnhardt fan, but how you don't have Dale Earnhardt on your Mount Rushmore, I would say. And then let's put Kyle Larson up there. Why not? Maybe a little early.
No, I don't think it's early at all, considering what he's all doing. I mean, the guy, whatever he hops in, he wins in. So, why not? That's solid Mount Rushmore right there. So, and the other last question I have: when is the next time we're going to see you on the track on VGN?
Yeah, I'm hoping to be there. Nashville coming up next weekend. Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Well, we look forward to seeing you there. And again, I really do thank you for your time and everything here today.
Happy to do it, and thank you, John. Thank you, Ryan.
And that will wrap up this week's edition of VGN Weekly. Again, my name is John Hine, and I look forward to seeing you again right here next week.
Coming up on the Virtual Grip Network tonight, May 27th. Catch flag-to-flag coverage of Yesteryear Racing's 1966 Tour Modified Series, live from Thompson Speedway at 8:30 p.m. The RLR Skidder Creek SK Modified Series will be live from Oxford Plains Speedway on Thursday, May 29th at 8 p.m. The BRL Modifieds and Late Models from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway will air on Saturday, May 31st at 7:45 p.m. The OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series goes live at 8 p.m. from Charlotte Motor Speedway on Sunday, June 1st. Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series will be live from Talladega Superspeedway on Monday, June 2nd at 9:30 p.m. And catch the next episode of VGN Weekly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 3rd, all times Eastern. You can see our full schedule and more at virtualgrip.net.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skidder Creek Motorsports Group.